Welcome back to the fourth module of this course. AI has limits, and hence it is important that we understand what are some of these limitations so that we can develop and deploy AI ethically and responsibly. When we see AI on TV or in the movies, it is usually shown as robots who have learned to think for themselves and have turned against the humans. The Matrix, iRobot, and Terminator movies are just a few to name. Is this realistic? Well, we are still very far away from creating AI models which can actually think and act like us humans. AI today is what is known as narrow AI. It can only be effective at the tasks that they have been trained in, and in a very constrained manner. As shared earlier, if the AI systems have not seen enough pictures of cats or dogs, it would not have been able to recognize it. Similarly, an AI system trained to recognize speech in English cannot work well with Singlish, whereas we humans can operate in such fuzzy domains. Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI, where the AI system has intelligence comparable to humans, is very far away. I hope from the earlier modules, especially Module 2, how AI works, you can now understand why. AI is just maths, and a glorified pattern recognizer at best. It cannot think like us humans. But when trained for a very specific task like object detection, it could do very well and far surpass us humans. It can do the task faster and more accurately, hopefully. Before we discuss responsible use of AI, we have to understand why people are often concerned by AI systems. AI can't work well if bad data is given to it. A common saying in computing is garbage in, garbage out. Sometimes, data can be incomplete and some parts of the data can be missing. Other times, data is wrongly entered into a database by human operators. Incorrect data will make the AI less accurate at making predictions. Data can also be very messy. If the data is not neatly organized into proper rows and columns, the computer will not be able to learn from it. Finally, and most importantly, data can also be biased. Recall, we earlier said that the AI model built is a representation of the physical world. Let's say a new tech-savvy CEO joins the organization and wants to build an AI system to recommend salaries for staff based on skills and remove the human biasness. However, the organization had always paid lower salaries to women with the same skills compared to men. If the AI engineer were to just take all the existing data to train the AI model to recommend the salaries, the AI model would continue to recommend lower salaries for women and would not have fixed the issue. This is because the underlying data already have the biasness. The AI model is not biased. It is the data that is biased. So the data needs to be corrected before the AI model is trained. Let's look at this picture. For most of us, we will recognize that this is a man standing on the moon. However, an AI program created by Microsoft back in 2016 called CaptionBot, when shown the picture, said, "I'm not really confident, but I think it is a man standing on top of a dirt field." Why? From the earlier part of this course, you learned that such computer vision systems learns by being shown lots of pictures of the object you want them to detect or classify. In this case, Microsoft used images from the internet, those pictures you uploaded when you are playing with your kids out in the field, or just hanging out with your friends, to train the model. How many of us have gone to the moon and took pictures on the moon? Probably not any one of us here. So with lots of pictures of people on Earth in fields, and very few pictures of men on the moon, what the AI model learned was biased towards fields on Earth. The main limitations of the AI-based computer vision system in this case is the data it has to train on. You can see that AI is unable to learn things outside of the data that we have not shown it. It cannot infer intelligently like us humans. AI models today are brittle and can be easily fooled by a savvy hacker. Researchers have shown that with the right color stickers and knowing where to stick them on a stop sign, You can trick the car into thinking it is, for example, a speed limit sign. To the human eye, the stop sign with the stickers is still a stop sign. Similarly, if you want to avoid detection by AI systems in CCTV, you can use a pattern like that shown. Maybe wear a cap or jacket with those patterns, and the AI systems will not detect you as a person at all. Of course, these are not just any colorful patterns, but carefully computer-generated, often by AI, patterns to trick another AI systems. How can AI be unethical when it is just maths? AI is just maths and has no feelings, and hence cannot be unethical. However, AI is a powerful tool which can easily scale and amplify the improper implementation of a business or government policy. So whether you use AI, traditional programming methods, humans, or monkeys to build the system, it does not really matter. What matters is it the right thing to do? How can we ensure that the data we have is unbiased? Some of you may have been posed this question, the trolley problem. Various versions of the trolley problem exist, but basically you have a trolley rolling down the track and you are controlling a switch that can divert the trolley to the right, where 5 persons will be killed, or left, where only 1 person will be killed. In the AI autonomous car scenario, the problem is stated as whether the car should turn to kill the baby or the grandma. The trolley problem, first proposed in 1967, is not about AI. It is a thought experiment in philosophy and psychology, and there is no right or wrong answers. But what is clear is that with existing technology and barring any mechanical failure and reasonable road conditions, most autonomous vehicles would be able to see the baby and grandma 50 to 100 meters away and stop in time. And if there is an accident, it would be a standard car accident investigation and insurance would be the payout. AI, like we have discussed, is just a tool. It is just maths. And yes, it may fail because the AI engineer missed out on training for the situation where there is a baby crawling on the road. But it has no feelings and has nothing to do with an ethics discussion. It should be a discussion on about better safety engineering and the insurance model. Let's look at some cases of interesting AI projects gone wrong. In 2016, Microsoft launched Tay, an AI chatbot on Twitter. Tay was created to have casual and playful conversations on Twitter with youths between 18 to 24 years old. The conversations did not stay casual and playful for long, as Tay started to learn racism and bigotry from the users. After some racist and pro-Hitler tweets, Tay had to be shut down. The second AI program claims it could identify criminals by their faces, like the size and shape of the upper lip and the distance between one's eyes. A side note, this profiling based on how a person looks is not new. In fact, the Chinese and even the Europeans in the 13th century practiced face reading to predict the person's character and his life based on how he looked. Now that you understand how such an AI system is trained, what do you think is the problem? Where do you think the researcher got his pictures of criminals? Probably from police mugshots. And where do you think he got pictures of non-criminals? Probably from crawling the internet, faces uploaded from parties and of friends. And in these two instances, what is the main difference? Do you think a person having his mugshot taken would be smiling? He probably would be very gloomy. Whereas when you upload a picture of you and your friends, you would often choose a happy picture. So what did the AI learn? Yes, a smile detector. But more importantly, is it even ethical to deploy such a system to say that you are a criminal based on how you look? Other well-known AI deployments which had issues included Apple Card, which launched with Goldman Sachs as the underlying partner, appeared to be biased against women and offered 10 to 20x less credit than the husband, even when the wife had an original better credit score. And Amazon deployed an AI recruiting tool which was biased against women.
Hello everyone, I'm Tempo, a Principal AI Consultant at AI Singapore. Welcome to Chapter 1 of AI for Everyone, Multilingual version. This is the first.
大家好，我是翁建曙我在 AI Singapore 是一位人工智能工程主管欢迎来到 AI for Everyone 中文版。本系列共有3讲，这是第1讲。
Today, you should not trust everything you see and read on the internet. Deepfakes is a class of AI workstreams which uses AI to replace people's faces with someone else. Not just in static images, but also videos like you just saw here. Computer-generated faces can be very lifelike, and unless you observe carefully, you would think it is a real person. And I guess this is also an example of an AI done badly. To help guide organizations make use of AI ethically, PDPC and IMDA created and put forward the Model AI Governance Framework to the World Economic Forum back in 2020. It has 2 guiding principles. The first is that decisions made by AI should be explainable, transparent, and fair. Explainable and transparent decisions are made by the AI that we can trace back and understand how the decisions were made. For example, why did the AI think that this person's insurance claim should be rejected? Or why did the AI reject this person's loan application? Fair decisions means the AI is unbiased and should not disadvantage any group of people. The second guiding principle is that AI systems should be human-centric, in that they should always focus on the benefit to humanity before other purposes. The framework and its guidelines are long, but the 4 core principles are internal governance structures and measures, determining the level of human involvement in AI-augmented decision-making, AI operations management, stakeholder interactions and communications. I highly encourage all practitioners to review this framework. And to show how the AI model governance framework is used in practice, AI Singapore contributed 4 AI projects we have done under the 100 Experiments program to Volume 2 of the Compendium of Use Cases. Again, highly recommended to download and read. These are real-world projects completed here in Singapore following the Model AI Governance Framework. The EU have recently published their AI regulatory framework. I highly recommend those interested in AI ethics to download a copy and read. It basically classifies AI deployments into 4 categories of risks. Those that are minimal risk, that is, the vast majority of systems. These can be developed and used subject to existing legislation and legal obligations. AI systems that fall into the limited risk, and those that fall into high risk, where there would be an adverse impact on people's safety or fundamental rights, and unacceptable risk, where the use of AI contravenes fundamental rights and should be banned. Let's watch this video on quality and standards.
In today's competitive global economy, Singapore has established itself as a trusted innovation hub with a strong reputation for quality and reliability. Underpinning this is a robust quality and standards ecosystem that helps our industries transform and innovate, facilitates trade, and hence strengthens Singapore's competitiveness.
Digitalization is one of those key technologies that will enable local manufacturers to participate fully in global supply chains. So things like aerospace, marine and offshore, medical technology. It's an opportunity for Singapore to become a world leader in standards for these new technologies that will allow Singapore companies to be a first mover going international.
Singapore is going to be more and more technological driven. We have developed queue system and traffic systems to help our whole country to be more efficient and more productive. QS provide us a kind of system in place, and by adopting all these standards, we know that our processes and services will be more efficient.
So there's an increasing number of systems that are coming online. It's important for partners to understand and have the confidence that they're able to provide the level of security required. Quality and standards set a bar for the industry to meet and ensures that when companies are able to meet that quality and standard, businesses that use them understand that the information assets are well protected.
Today we have numerous emerging technologies coming up, actively explored, such as artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and definitely blockchain. So blockchain technology has a massive potential to transform numerous domains, specifically financial payments, traceability in food logistics, transparency, accountability in supply chain. QNS will continue to play a pivotal role in supporting the implementation of these technologies going forward.
We're at the dawn of a new world where digital technologies are impacting the way businesses operate. Quality and standards plays a crucial role in supporting industry transformation, enabling innovation, facilitating market access for our enterprises, and driving interoperability. What awaits us is a vibrant digital economy where technology drives new and emerging sectors, and creative ideas become reality. Quality and standards will continue to underpin our economic transformation and play a pivotal role in our future economy.
So in Singapore, Enterprise Singapore is driving the adoption of standards and the creation of standards by Singapore companies. AI Singapore is leading our AI standard works. The AI Technical Committee, or AITC, looks at emerging standards for AI from a global body like ISO and vote on them. More importantly, Singapore is also developing our own best practices and standards. In particular, driven by our experience in engaging more than 500 organizations keen to develop AI products and solutions, and having worked on more than 70 of them and bring more than 30 to the market the last 4 years, AI Singapore have accumulated a wealth of experience of what works and what does not. In the AITC, we have groups working in a holistic view of what it takes to get an AI model to market safely and ethically, what we call the AI Model Audit Framework. The AI Readiness Index will look at how and whether a business is ready for AI, model robustness to determine if a model is secure, robust, and unbiased, AI model engineering to ensure that the AI model is built in a repeatable, consistent, and sound manner, and AI ML Ops to ensure that the whole end-to-end AI pipeline is complete. The intent is for a trained and certified AI engineer to use this AI Model Audit Framework as a reference to certify and sign off on AI projects done by organizations. Ethical and responsible use of AI is a very big topic, and we can only briefly discuss this important topic and point you to more resources to read up. AI is limited by the data it has to train on, not just on how accurate the model can be, but more importantly, would the model trained be biased? Because the training data itself could be biased. A number of countries, including Singapore, have published AI ethics and governance framework. And in Singapore, the AI Technical Committee is working on several technical references and standards. And most importantly, please remember, the AI algorithm itself is neutral. It is just maths. It is the business use case or government policies that needs to be questioned. Is it necessary or ethical? AI is just a tool that unfortunately allows bad ethics to be amplified at scale. In the next and last module of this course, we'll discuss how AI can impact you as an individual, and also show you a very simple tool to help understand where your organization is in terms of its AI maturity.